You are listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset with Pete Monfre and Bill Lowell. We want to help demystify marketing to reduce risk, drive more and better opportunities, and grow your business. Are you ready to master marketing?
Holy mackerel, here we are again. We were having some technical problems, so we started the stream over. So if you're thinking that you're getting deja vu, you are all over again. So welcome to episode number 99 of the B2B Marketing Mindset. If it was episode 100, everyone in the audience would win $1 million. So you missed it by just one. But today we're going to welcome Jeremy Shere from Expert Content Pros. We're talking about how to leverage video to grab your prospects' attention. Just like we're doing now. We're really grabbing their attention with all of these issues, but differentiate your business and how it works in the sales funnel and a lot more. And we're going to share some common mistakes and also Jeremy's recommended AI-driven tools. So let me introduce my co-host Bill real quick. We'll tell you a little bit more about Jeremy. Mr. Lowell, welcome. Yes. Seems like I was just talking to you a couple minutes ago, oddly.
It's that deja vu thing all over again. You know, you just can't get rid of me.
Well, it's good to see you again. And it looks like we are up and running. Thank you, Optimum Internet, for your terrible, terrible internet.
And I'm excited. I'm excited about this episode. I think it's going to be really, really worthwhile for our listeners, and looking forward to having Jeremy on the program. So this is great.
Well, we certainly walk the walk with this program. So, you know, video has become a huge thing. So Jeremy, welcome. And you're the founder of Expert Content Pros. I'll tell you a little bit about Jeremy. It's a video marketing firm. It helps customers, clients get and convert more leads by supercharging their sales funnel with video. And Jeremy is also founder of Conversa, a B2B podcast production agency. So he's very understanding. But first I want to introduce, I already introduced Bill. So we're just off the rails, brother.
This is deja vu.
Isn't it crazy? But anyways, welcome. So tell us a little bit about how you got to here. You were in journalism. You moved to radio, which is the enemy of video, according to the Buggles. But what is it about video that sort of captures, you know, that it captured your imagination enough where you actually have two businesses that are knee deep in video?
Yeah, you know, it started with the podcast stuff that we were doing a lot of video work for our podcasting clients, right? Recording video and audio. And, you know, and even before, when I was in journalism and in radio and doing print journalism too, I have a lot of experience with interviewing people. And this does relate to video, I promise. What I found that was just like so cool about video is that if you can get somebody on, if you can engage somebody in a conversation, like in a really good interview, and it's just free flowing and the person's just talking and thinking out loud and not like censoring themselves, kind of getting out of their own way. If you can capture that on video, you're getting some of the best content you can possibly get, because it's not overbaked. You know, it's not like run through the marketing team and then they like scrutinize every single word. You're getting people showing up as themselves, kind of at their unscripted best, you know? So you get to kind of see them thinking out loud and you get to see it, which is really cool. Hearing it is also good, but when you add in the video component, then you get the body language, the facial expressions, and it just adds up to something really powerful. That if it's produced in the right way, if it's captured with good quality, and then it's produced in just the right way, not too much production and not too little, like hitting that sweet spot, then you've got the kind of content that I think we're all really talking about when we say you need compelling content. You know, you need stuff that's authentic, stuff that's going to stand out and help differentiate you. In short, that's how I kind of came to video, is like, this is the way to go. And a lot of people everyone kind of agrees with that, but very few people actually do it.
Well, it's not easy. I mean, and you know, this is about as authentic as it gets, I think. You know, it isn't easy. There's a technical part. There's a part where you're figuring out who you are on camera. You have to be comfortable. That's not for everybody. And so you're doing some interesting things to help people get over that. We'll get into that, but we're going to go into our 5 points. And so the first one, in this first point, why video for engaging prospects? And if you don't mind,
Yeah.
I'm going to kick it off because
Yeah.
we are living proof because we do this program in video for a number of reasons. One, the algorithm loves it,
Hmm.
but it's worth the extra work because it does engage people. But why video to engage prospects?
Well, so I mean, for all the reasons that I said just before, you're showing up as yourself authentically. But to add, so let's say to put it in a context, the like, why would you want to add video, let's say, to an outreach campaign? Let's say you're doing a cold email campaign or a DM campaign or some combination of both. The vast majority of the time, it's text-based, right? Maybe you add an image in there sometimes, right? The the challenge with that is that, as we all know, is that everyone already gets too many emails, and the open rates on a lot of those are just abysmally low, right? Because it's so easy to delete. And I think part of the reason for that is that so many of these emails just all sound the same, right? So you might even glance at it and be like, yeah, okay, I've been pitched on this a million times, delete, bye bye. When you start to add video, though, into your outreach strategically in a very specific way, you're standing out just because so few people are doing it, right? And there are platforms you can use, and I can get more into this later if you want, but
Yep.
platforms we can use where you can't literally embed video in an email so you can just play it and watch it right there, at least not that I'm aware of, but you can embed a GIF, let's say. So you do have like an animated image of you, kind of like, indicating that, hey, there's a video here. And you can say, quick video message for you. People click through to watch it. And so, number one, very few people are doing that.
Yeah,
And so,
oh, go ahead.
well, so that helps you stand out. But then, even if a lot of people were doing it, it would help you stand out anyway. Because when you show up as yourself on video, it can't help but differentiate you because you're different from everyone else. All human
Right,
beings are unique, right? So
right.
think about it in comparison with the average text email, where whatever you write, unless you are like a famous poet or something, and you just have such facility of language that you can make it leap off the page. But come on, like very few people are like that. Chances are with the text email, you're just going to blend in. With video, though, and you deliver your message in a conversational way to just the right audience, and you do it in a particular way, you can't help but stand out because they're meeting the actual you and not just some words that you wrote them in an email. You know what I mean?
Well, and this is the actual me, except I usually am wearing a T-shirt. But it's Bill's fault. But Bill,
Yeah, I have a
so
dress
what's
code. That's right.
that's right. I mean,
I'm
and
breaking the code, though.
Yeah.
what I think
You're
is really
standing out, Jeremy.
Yeah.
what I think is really interesting though is Bill. We've known each other for a really long time, 30 years, and I don't remember when it was. It was a couple years ago. I said, "Hey, do you want to be the host on this podcast that I do?" I don't think you've done a whole lot of video before this.
No.
So what did you first like? What did you first think? Were
You
you
mean doing this
worried?
podcast or what?
Yeah, when you're thinking, gosh, should I go on live video? Did it freak you out a little bit at first?
No, no. I mean, I've done so many online classes at the university that, and we do it pretty sophisticated because we go in the studio and do that. So no, it
Yeah.
really didn't. And I think I've told you this before, Pete, but it was just more of a curiosity thing, and I thought, it sounds like something fun to do. So that's kind of why I did it. But the more we get into it, it's enjoyable. But I was going to ask Jeremy a question if I could, though, just because. Um, if you send that video, via the you send it out via email or some kind of platform like that, what's the stop somebody, like if I get something in my email from somebody I don't know, even if it's a picture of you
Yeah.
that I could click, I'm blowing it away because I've been taught for so long and all the training programs, everything I've got that, oh boy, don't download anything, don't click on anything. So how do you overcome that? Because to me, that's a big thing that people
Hmm.
may not engage with you.
Oh, okay. Well, right. I mean, so you're saying, how do you deal with people's well-founded fear of like phishing emails
Yes,
and
that's
things like
exactly right.
that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think the answer is the same whether we're talking about video or not, you know? So part of the strategy, right, like with any outreach campaign is, I mean, some are just straight up cold emails, right? You're just spraying emails out to people who have no idea who you are, and you're hoping that enough of them click on it and then convert so that it's worth your while. But I think more and more, and you know, this is not a like a novel observation, but right, like that doesn't work if it ever, and maybe it did when like in the, you know, if you go back far enough, but nowadays, right, like you say, everyone's just like, I'm not going to open an email and certainly not click a link from someone I don't know,
Yeah.
right? So there's, you know, part of the strategy is warming people up and interacting with them online. So when they get the email, they at least have some, they're confident enough, right? So that they're more likely to click that link. I think the other way to think about it is that the whole point of video is to warm people up so they can actually see who you are, you know? So you're not like with video, you're not asking them to open an attachment. You're not asking them to enter any information like we need your credit card
Right.
information or anything like that. It's just, hey, here's a video message for you. Click this link and it'll take you there. So I've found in my personal use of that, it works pretty well in that I haven't really run into people being like, you know, I'm not going to click that because I'm worried about getting scammed,
Well, and it
you know?
also it depends on how the email client handles it. So every email client
Yeah.
displays email a different way. Sometimes, like I know Apple will actually show you a preview of what you're getting. Outlook
Hmm.
may just say this is a file, download it, right? And that's where people might freak out. We had
Yeah.
discovered something recently. We're still experimenting with it. One of our art directors sent us an animation that he's working on for us, and it was embedded in our email and it played in there. And I said, how in the
Huh.
heck are you doing that? Something to do with
Hmm.
Adobe Encoder. And
Mm.
so
Interesting.
our encoding tools are not Adobe. We use Apple. And so super interesting. So
Mm.
we're going to look into that and see how that works. But I do think so. The point, it's more why video for engaging prospects is kind of like saying, why meet someone face to face instead of using a telegraph? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
more human, and
Yeah.
it's immediate. I think that's the other thing, and I love being live, but a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people can't just sit here
Yeah.
and talk to a camera. It's just not, and what Jeremy does in his business is he will interview them. So it really takes the
Right.
pressure off of them, and then he
Yeah.
can edit himself out later, and you get these clips. It's a really interesting thing. So, but we talked a little bit. Let's go to our next point.
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, how to use video to differentiate your business.
Yeah.
And you kind of hit on it a little bit.
Yeah.
If nobody else is doing it and you're doing it, well, that's one way. But, some of the stats I've seen recently, I did have them open on my screen, but I did restart my machine. But it was something like 92% of companies are using video,
Hmm.
but not necessarily the type of video we're talking about, right?
Yeah. You know, that's an interesting stat, right? And I've seen stats like that. And all I know is in my experience, and I spend a lot of my time, just on LinkedIn looking for people that I want to talk to, and then going to a lot of websites. It's very rare that I see a website with using video in a kind of prominent way. Maybe occasionally there'll be a video here, a video there, but I almost never see widespread use of video either on people's websites or in their outreach. So
Hmm.
I don't know where that stat comes from
Yeah,
exactly. It makes me a little skeptical about it, actually.
Interesting.
Just be and like my personal experience is pretty limited, but that's just been my observation. So I don't, it doesn't seem to me like the vast majority of any business website you go to is going to have video on
well, I thought it was a little odd too, and most of the video I see is actually just terrible video.
it. Okay.
And so maybe that doesn't count. I don't know, but I think that, and some of the barriers too, right? Video
Yeah.
it's just not the easiest medium. That you do need some equipment. Now your phone though can work. this is what I love about it. You don't need a lot of high-end equipment. My camera is my iMac built-in camera. Look how nice it looks, right?
Wow.
Now I do have some lighting and I have decent audio, which I think is really important. But I think the most important thing, like production quality, almost doesn't matter. What matters is the quality of the content. So let's say you own a janitorial business and you're showing people mopping floors, okay? That's not necessarily going to differentiate you or engage prospects. So I think the real challenge is, what exactly are you going to do on video?
Yeah.
Testimonials are one thing, for example.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can address a few things. So, first of all, I think in terms of the barriers to getting into video, it's not the technical stuff. Not really, because like you said, Pete, everyone has a phone. You get really high quality video from the camera on your phone or recording it. The camera I'm using right now is just the built-in camera on my MacBook Pro, right? And the audio on a MacBook Pro is even not bad, although I'm using a microphone. But it's cheap nowadays, right? You can get, without spending a lot of money, you can get a decent camera or just use your phone. If you need a microphone, you can get one for under $100. It's going to be just fine, right? You can get a ring light that's maybe like $50 or, it's not the technical part, because anyone can order that stuff on Amazon and watch a couple of videos and learn how to plug it in and use it. That's not the barrier. That's the easy part. The real barrier, in my experience, is, and you were touching on this, Pete, it's the awkwardness of speaking into a camera and kind of figuring out not just what to say, but how to say it in a way that's not going to come across as like very practiced and kind of salesy. And, like one of those commercials you'll see, like, Crazy Don's say we're giving everything away. Like, see, the thing about video.
You just gave away our 100th video.
That's what we were going to do that next. Oh.
Right.
Exactly. Oh.
See, I think it can cut both ways, right? Like, just like the value of video is that you can show up as yourself and really connect with people, because it's sort of the next best thing to being in a room live with people. But it can also cut the other way. It can push people away if you come across poorly on video.
Right.
And that can mean if the production is bad and it's in the audio sucks, or if it looks like you're reading a script, you're like, your eyes moving back and forth, and it really undermines the value of that. And it's a particular skill, right? Not everyone is naturally good at that, to just kind of film yourself delivering messaging. It's highly likely that it'll take you a long time to get good at it, or that you'll end up just looking kind of stiff and weird, because it's a little bit of a weird thing to do unless you're like a trained performer or an actor.
And then you'll quit, right? I mean, it's kind of interesting, Bill and I's dynamic. I was a lot more accustomed to doing this when Bill joined, and I am a performer, and I made a lot of videos before doing podcasting, and so I was pretty comfortable with it. But I do remember having to think about the persona on camera. How much does the on-camera Pete swear compared to the off-camera Pete? It's a close ratio, but it's not as much. But Bill has gotten so much more comfortable. Kudos to Bill. He's, as I've always tried to convince him, that he is an absolute expert in marketing. He's a professor of marketing. He's been doing this for 3 decades. Literally, I challenge anyone to talk about any marketing topic, and Bill and I can talk off the top of our heads. But I have to say, it's taken practice. Like, this just doesn't happen overnight. But I think the reward is so great in terms of how it engages people, that it's really worth the effort. And I just want to add one thing. We do this live, but not for the reason that people think. They're like, well, you don't have very many viewers live. You know why? Because we don't care about that. It's not why we do it. One, the algorithm does like it, so we have pretty decent reach. That's changing now, but the other reason we do it is that it's very efficient. We don't have post-production. We do this all in about an hour usually. The program's 40 minutes long. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why we do it this way, and it isn't because we're trying to amass a giant audience. So that speaks a little bit to the sales funnel, but you know, it is a great way to differentiate. Any thoughts, Bill?
I do have one. In fact, I've got a really good example. We have one of our clients is like one of the leading associations with immunotherapy, which is for cancer. And it is an extremely complex topic and how it works. And they're all oncologists. And I mean, these are just brilliant people with cutting edge technologies. And I'm thinking, just what Jeremy said, there is no way you couldn't post that stuff on there. I mean, maybe some of the people want to read all those journal articles and everything about the newest technologies. But one of the things that this organization, they came to us with, was trying to test messages online so that they could do a video exactly to explain it. And then, I hate to say it, but almost to reduce it almost to the ridiculous, where people could really understand what it is and how they do it. And I think it worked. I didn't do the video, somebody else did the video, but we tested it, and it was phenomenal compared to what they were putting on the website. So I go back to what Jeremy was talking about earlier, Pete. It's like, it was such a difference, but they stood out, and it made them unique because they were doing some video of this complex topic. And I thought it was just outstanding. So I don't know if that helps you, but that was the example that I had.
Well, I think that's interesting. You know, Pete, to go back to what you were saying before, that, you know, this is kind of, it takes time to get good at this, right? To being on camera. That's true. But what we're doing right now, just having a conversation, I feel like most people are actually pretty good at that, you know?
Sure.
And it's not, this is, what we're doing right now is much different than recording yourself to make a video, right? By yourself, or monologuing, or like reading a script. That adds a lot of layers of complexity, and that is a very particular skill that you really need to practice and get good at, and some people may never quite nail it. But when you're just having a conversation like we are, I mean, we didn't really even prepare for this that much, right? I mean, we're just talking.
Hardly at
and
all.
And it's just about the most natural thing that you can do. I mean, human beings have been doing this for literally millions of years. You know what I mean? So like, we're very good at it. And I think even people who in another context might be like, oh, I'm shy about the camera, I don't know how to do it, I'm worried about it. It's not a problem when you do it like this. And that's why, and like that's in what we do at Expert Content Pros, that's kind of the heart of it. Like that's we call it the interview engine. So it's just like this. When we're working with a client, we're not writing scripts for them and then they're performing in them. We're interviewing them like if you were a guest on a podcast. So you really can just show up and then talk. You know, we plan what you're going to talk about and all that stuff, but you're really just in a conversation and you're not even thinking about like, how do I look on camera? Because we're taking care of all that, you know? So that's the key. If you can do it in a conversational way, and then the content's better too, because it's natural and authentic.
You know, and what grabbed me is when you said, look, we can work with somebody and in an hour, we can shoot a month's worth of video. And so you do the interview, you chop it up into shorter pieces. We do this, we're getting better at it, where we recycle the content. And so, I mean, I guess it kind of speaks, let's jump to our next point, because I think we're just naturally going there. You know, how to use the video strategically in your sales funnel. And so there's a lot of pieces to that, right? I mean, there's a production aspect. I mean, and in this program, we actually do have a lot of technology, and we're switching scenes and all this sort of thing. Like, I push this button and it's just me. How about that? And then I push a different button. But you don't have to have all this stuff. We're doing it to differentiate. But in the sales funnel, the way I think it works, at least in my case, and I think I speak for Bill, you know, somebody hears about me, and however, maybe I reach out to them, maybe they just hear about me, maybe they read some press, maybe something, whatever, however they hear about it, then they go searching for me. And so even though they might not watch an entire episode ever, okay, they're going to see 100 episodes on topics that are meaty, right? And it adds to credibility, it adds to reputation, and it also shows people how you think, and then they're going to decide whether you're on the short list or not. I think the
Yeah.
video makes it easier to get on the short list.
Yeah, I think that's kind of part of the overall value of video. And the way I think about it, like you were talking before about, how do you use video strategically all throughout the sales funnel, right? That's key. Because I think one of the mistakes that people often make is we think about video as only at the top of the funnel, right? Or that's often how it's used, right? Like you record, like, I could take the recording of this episode, right, and chop it up into 20 clips of me saying stuff and then spray it all over social media, right? Like I have a plan and every week I'm giving you 3, 4 clips. And that's good. That's a good strategy, or it's good for brand awareness, right? For all the reasons we've been talking about. But what about when people get to your website, right? The whole point, like putting video on social media is not an end unto itself. That's just the beginning. That's just to get people's attention, right? There's a call to action. Say the call to action is like, if you like what I'm saying, here's a link to my website. You can learn even more, right? Now that's where there's often a disconnect. So you've engaged people with video, let's say on social media, or as we were talking about before, in an outreach email and an outreach campaign. So they're seeing you show up in video. Okay, great. And then they get to your website and it's all text. What happened? Where's that guy that I was hearing from, right? Now suddenly the burden is all on me to like read all this stuff on the website, even if the content's really good. Even if the website is really well designed and it looks cool and the copy has been, calibrated so it's just so, and the value prop is right there in the hero section, still, you are making quite a demand on the viewer to read all that stuff, remember it, and make sense of it. And it's just not going to happen, right? People are not, when confronted with walls of text, they're going to skim it, they're going to skip around, they're going to get bored. And chances are, despite your best efforts, your copy is going to sound a lot like the copy on every other website that people are going to, just because that's how it is, However, but imagine though, if you follow up that initial connection you made through video with when they come to your website, there you are again, right in the hero section with another video. Hey, welcome to the website. You might have come here from LinkedIn. Great, cool. So glad to have you, right? Here's what we're all about. So instead of making them read your value prop, it's going to sound at least a little like all the other value props. You're just talking about it, right?
Yeah.
In your own voice, in a conversational way. That's going to pop out. That's a much different and frankly better experience than the typical read all this stuff on the website experience. And then as people go through the website, right? What is the point of a website? It's to take people through a story, a journey, to get to a call to action and then have them take action, whatever that is. Book a call, make a purchase. If you can using video, again, showing up as yourself in an authentic way, guiding people through that website, that's going to boost your conversions because people will actually watch the videos. And if you do it, if you're good at it and you do it the right way, and you're strategic about where you place the video and all that, and keep it nice and short, then you're removing a lot of that burden from the viewer, right? It's like you're there with them every step of the way, talking with them, helping them, telling the story you want to tell. It's just a much better experience for the user compared to the typical website that's mostly text.
And Pete, he just gave us a great segue. He said call to action. So isn't there something you want to talk about on which platforms we're on and how people can listen to this podcast?
There is. If you're listening to it out there in podcast land and you're only getting the audio, there's a lot more to see because it is a video podcast. And so you can head over to b2bmarketingmindset.com. That is a great place to subscribe. You can subscribe on Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts and all those places, whatever your favorite is. But there's a lot more at b2bmarketingmindset.com. You can register there and you can see 99 episodes of juicy marketing topics. So excellent point, Bill. Call to action. Go do it now.
See, I'm a fast learner. I listened to Jeremy, and my gosh, he
There
helped
you
me
go.
right out.
He's like,
Let me go
yes.
for it.
I've thought
Listen
about
to Jeremy. He's going to help you. Yeah.
Listen to
I've
me.
thought about a website that is only video. Where
Oh,
the
wow.
homepage is a video and a form, and the about page is a video and a form. And
Wow.
I don't know. It's an interesting
That's
idea.
kind of cool.
That's interesting. I mean,
It's
look, I think there's,
it's
web
kind of
design
scary.
is always changing, and now with AI, I think it's going to change radically. Like I've been envisioning something where we rethink how websites work with a combination of video, and I think there will still always be a place for text. A well-written, line can have a very powerful impact in conjunction when, working side by side with video, and then add in a specially trained AI chat bot in there strategically. And suddenly you have a much more interactive, interesting, and useful experience as opposed to the mainly static experience of most websites right now. So you can
Right.
go and actually learn something, find things faster, and be much more engaged in a human way. You know, I think and then all the way to the bottom of the funnel, right? And now we're talking about case studies, testimonials, right? Which, maybe that's in the middle too. Middle, bottom, these things can overlap. But in any
Right.
case, same principle, right? Why make people read your whole case study, which again, people are going to skim and it's going to sound a lot like all the other case studies. Do it in video format. It's going to be so much more effective, especially if you have your client telling their own story in their own words. It's about as authentic as you can get.
Well, and you better be good at it. But I'm going to push back a little bit because even on my own thinking, like let's a video, a website that's all video. There are people that prefer to read it. And so, you have this challenge where most people are going to be on your website for less than 2 minutes. And what they're doing is they're just trying to check off some boxes. Does this company do what I think I need? Are they credible? Do I like them? And then what do I do next? And they're gonna do that very, very quickly. So these reams and reams of copy that people have, most people are not reading any of that. So I almost think the answer there's got to be a little bit of redundancy. You're going to hit them with video, but you might have some copy as well. That might be the ideal balance. I know when I'm trying to learn how to do something and I hit a video, man, I'm out of there, man. I want to read it. I just don't have time for somebody to yap at me for 5 minutes before we get to the heart of it, right?
Well, that's the thing,
that speaks
right?
to how to do it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. That speaks to, see, I think another mistake that a lot of people make with video is if they do have video on their website, that it's just kind of there with no ostensible purpose. And it's just like, oh, we have a video, we'll put it on here. And either the production isn't great or it's way too long, or it's just doesn't exactly make sense for where it is on the website. And yeah, like 5 minutes. No, that's way too long, right?
Right.
I think a much better strategy is, and there are emerging technologies now, and I've met the CEO of startups where it's a different way to embed video in your website. So instead of just the typical like square, video from YouTube and here it is and you can, play it, it's more like a bubble, let's say. Let's say it's in your hero section, right? So it's not like it just plays when you get there. You have to watch it to get the information, but it's a bubble that's clearly kind of marked as, hey, click here to play. When you click it, it pops up, and then it's maybe 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, a really short little message, nothing too fancy. There's a little production, but not too much. And it's just, let's say, the founder of the company. Hey, welcome to the website. I see you're in our hero section. We're all about this. If you're interested in this, you might want to go there. Anyway, down below we have this. Hope you have a great experience on the website. Quick, short, conversational. You're not trying to convey detailed, complex information so much. It's more it's to humanize it, to guide people through, right? It's the continuity from when they first met you, let's say on LinkedIn, and they watched a quick video. They're like, oh, okay, that seems like an interesting person. Let's learn more. Go to the website. Oh, there he is again. He's popping up and I'm guiding through and I'm getting a warm feeling and this is different. You know, it's different from the competitors because I'm getting to know the CEO a little bit, and you know what I mean? That's how
Yeah.
I think that's the
I
strategy.
I like that, Pete, but maybe one of the things that we could do with your concept, Pete, is we could test two different concepts. One that's like you mentioned, all video, and then one that's maybe a combination and see what people like. But I think one of the things that's so important is people like both senses. I mean, so the
Yeah.
seeing and the hearing, and I think that can enhance your message. So, I mean, it's just probably a balancing technique, wouldn't you think?
I
Yeah, I
agree. Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, look, I think it would be very interesting to see what it looks like, a website
Yeah,
that's just video.
yeah,
I wouldn't recommend it as just like a way to go. I think that there's an art and a science to this, and it's kind of
yeah,
a fine balance between different media, right?
yeah,
It's multimedia. It's text and video together, working together to complement each other. Right now, the average website is almost all text and
Right.
maybe a video here and there, but it's often disjointed. But like what we're working on is a whole system for a strategy for implementing, kind of making video even the centerpiece of your website, but still the text is very important for guiding people along. Not only for people who prefer it, but I think when you combine those two things and
Right.
then add in other, AI static images, that can add up to something that's much greater than the sum of its parts if you do it with a strategy and the strategy that's pegged to your audience and all that stuff. If you do that, it can work really well. If you're just
So
throwing some video on a website, maybe not so much.
So one of the mistakes is, not thinking it through.
hmm
It's,
Yeah.
I think, another mistake. I think that, and I think we make these mistakes too. And my website probably has too much copy. The number one thing businesses cite for not using video is they don't have time. That
Yeah.
is a legitimate challenge. But I think one mistake I see a lot is burying the lead, right? And so,
Hmm.
I don't know if you noticed, but we start this program off right away telling people, here's what we're going to do on this episode, right? We put that in the copy of the post as well, and the 5 points that we're going to cover, the one right now on the screen that you guys can't see, but the audience can. Common mistakes using video. And so,
Yeah.
think it through. And I would say that everything marketing, you need a strategy. If you're just thinking to
right.
myself, hey, let's do video, hey, let's buy a website, hey, let's do SEO, let's do this, let's do that, and there's no strategy tying this together, it's probably not going to work for you. it's
That's right.
it's that, to me, I always think about this stuff in terms of music. For example, that transitional thing that you said, you meet somebody in person, you go to the website, that's the bass guitar. It translates from percussion that isn't musical. Bass is percussive and musical, and it lives in the middle, and then it goes from there. The other thing is the headline, the video, the copy, the imagery. It's an ensemble. Okay, it
Yes.
all
Hmm.
needs to work together. If you have images in your website, for example, or whatever medium, and they're just there for decoration, you're missing an opportunity to communicate, right?
Mm.
And I'm
Yeah.
thinking of like the shaking hands picture. You know,
Exactly.
we just need
Exactly.
something to fill that space up, all right? Everything needs to work together. I find it very hard to do thinking in silos. And so I think
Yeah.
that's a huge mistake, and it goes across almost everything. I think another common mistake is not paying attention to the quality of audio.
Yes.
You can get away with a lot unless your audio is terrible.
Yeah.
And
That's
I think
true.
you mentioned this mic looks so fancy. Doesn't it look fancy? I think this is $180.
Yeah.
And it just, audio is important. Nothing will send a viewer packing faster than abrasive audio.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even more so than the video, right? There's some like
I think
if the
so.
video is like not super high res, whatever. Okay, if the content's interesting, you'll deal with it. But if the audio is bad, then yeah, it makes it impossible. But I will say too that the video quality does matter, And
I think it does.
and so there's kind of no excuse for not having at least decent lighting, 180p video, uh, and in terms of the production too, like that's an interesting thing. It's very easy to overproduce video with too many bells and whistles, and then the problem with that is the aesthetic can come off as like, oh, this is just corporate marketing stuff.
Right.
It's not authentic. It's just like a commercial. And you definitely don't want that. On the other hand, you also don't necessarily want just like, hey, this is me on my phone talking to you. And there's a bunch of crap in the background or whatever, and it's like a little hard to see, and you're just kind of, there's a level of production that I think can make a big difference in a subtle way.
Yeah.
Because again, like most of the time, the videos we're talking about are people talking. And that in and of itself isn't the most interesting thing to look at, you know? If you keep it super short, then it doesn't matter as much. But there's a lot you can do in subtle ways with little production techniques, like zooming in and out a little bit, moving things here and there, just to give it a little bit of zip,
Well,
pizzazz, because that matters too.
and I feel a little attacked. No, I'm just teasing. We probably overdo the production value a bit. I mean, we have titles on the screen, but when I look at the program, every piece of it has a purpose. Your names are all on the screen. The
Yeah.
headline is persistent. We have an area like the news where we use bullet points, and I'm trying to get it on the screen so that it communicate. Every piece communicates something. And then I do have the ability to just show Jeremy or just show Bill or just show myself. Again, it's really just to make it more interesting. But I have had people tell me in the past, dude, you don't need all this stuff. What are you doing that for? Just use your
Yeah,
laptop.
but can I point out something though? And this I
Please.
think is another mistake that I've seen people do, and that is some inconsistent branding, Pete. And you're the
Mm,
guru in this, but like look at in the back of Pete's where he's sitting. I mean, he's got the B2B mindset on the I mean,
yeah,
so even just some little subtle ways to throw that brand in there is so important, and I think
yeah,
that that's good. But I've seen some videos where it's like they almost ignore some of that, and it's like now it's inconsistent because it looks different than if you saw somebody's truck or if you saw somebody's
yeah.
letterhead or whatever the case is. So you got to be a little bit careful on that too. So I don't know. Being a research person, I guess I would still say you need to just know your target audience. Who are you trying to go after, and then fit it to them, because some
Yeah,
people might be turned off by, like Pete said, the overproduction,
yeah.
but some people might really enjoy that. So it just depends on, I think, some of your audience.
Yes, that's an excellent point. And I think that's not just video, right? That's any kind of content you're putting out there. The audience that's where you always start, right?
Right.
Who
Yeah.
are we communicating this to? And that's going to dictate pretty much everything. But I think you make also a great point, Bill, that, look at Pete's background, right? That's obviously been carefully set up so that it's interesting, but it's not cluttered, it's neat. And there's a lot of cool stuff there, a guitar and a camera and the B2B marketing mindset monitor and all that. Clearly this is something that you designed, Pete. And it
It
works, and
is.
you did a great job. It looks really good,
Every
right? And
everything behind me, there's a story and there's
yeah.
something personal about it. That, and by the way, that's an iMac from 1998,
That's
running
cool.
System
Okay.
7.
Yeah.
That's all it can
So
do, is
so
that.
that's and that's perfect for your purposes, right? So there's like
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into this. And here's my take on it, that during COVID, because everyone was locked in, right? And
Yes.
we kind of all cut each other a lot of slack for just like showing up on Zoom, and it was okay if there was like laundry in the background or your
Right.
dogs running
Your
through, or
bed,
your
unmade bed.
yeah, or like your kids are coming through. There's like and even if like it didn't look good or sound good, we're like, well, it's COVID, right? Like
Yeah.
this is the best we can do. We're all just trying to survive, right? And then I think this ethos set in of a little bit of like, oh, production doesn't matter, quality doesn't matter. You just need to show up all the time, right? On social media, and don't worry at all about the quality of what you're doing. First of all, I think that was never true.
I agree.
And especially now when we come out the other side, I think that is now just wrong. And I think, again, just look how you're presenting yourself, Pete. Like, you obviously took care with that because you understand marketing. And you know that, like, everything you put out there and see, it's an art and a science. You don't want it to look too mannered and, like, too, put together. Like, I'm trying to trick you or sell you something. But you do want it to be cool to look at and interesting and engaging, right?
Well, this is very interesting, and I want to get to the next point because we're really out of time, but that's okay. We can go as long as we want.
Yeah.
We do whatever we want. We make the rules here.
We're giving you compliments, Pete. So let's go as long as we can.
Let's just keep with this line. No, I remembered what somebody told me. It wasn't about podcasting. They were talking about I was shooting a K-12 STEM program on location, like reality television style, and like just use a laptop. You don't need all that stuff. Like, yeah, I'm going to carry around a laptop in the jungle? I mean, how's that going to work exactly? But at the same time, I've also been told recently that, man, what's with the tie? What's with the... And I've really thought about this. And when I'm looking at all the video that's out there, it's all informal. It's all dude, beard, cool hat. I'm cool. I'm Gary Vanderchuck. And I'm not... I think that's fine, right? But again, it's like, do you look and sound like everything else that's out there? Because one of the things that's going on is we are swimming in a sea of high quality content now. It's just not enough. And so I was thinking about ways to be different. Bill has always been dressed to the nines ever since I met him. He helped me understand how to tie a tie when I was much younger. And I decided, I'm going to wear a tie. I don't wear a tie normally. Like, people that know me, they're like, what are you wearing a tie for? But it's like, it's just something we do. It's just part of the chicanery and the fun of the program. And this is how we dress. And if you don't like it, go watch somebody else's podcast.
But you're making a good point, I think, Pete. Like, first of all, you pull it off well because you have the nice comedy, you have the tie, but you also have the soul patch.
He does.
And you have an electric guitar behind you, so clearly, like, you're cool, but you're also, showing up in a tie, and it's like it's kind of your look, and everything matters, right? All of that stuff matters. It made me think of like Jerry. He does his stand up in a suit and tie. It's kind of old fashioned, but that's just his thing, and it works, And yeah, like, hey, look, next time I come on this podcast, I'm gonna be in like a tuxedo and a top hat.
There you go. And have you ever seen a picture of Howlin' Wolf without a tie? Ever?
No, I guess not. I never thought about it, but
I perform in a suit and tie. If I'm not wearing a suit and tie, I'm wearing like Grand Ole Opry sequin craziness, right? So because there's an entertainment aspect to it. I mean, there's something that this communicates. Again, so I'm thinking about every single piece of what you see on camera. And if I switch to just a shot with me, you get a little wider shot. Have a presidential seal. There's a story there. This is the first guitar I ever bought in my life. This is a jig that my father made because he built custom violins. It goes on and on like this. And so everything has a purpose, and it's been thought through. Now, I do that pretty easily, but because I've been doing this my whole life. But it isn't just, they're not just props. Everything has a purpose. Sometimes the hand right behind me is flipping people off. Some people didn't like that. But I don't have control over the hand. It does its thing.
I thought that was a hook'em horn. I thought that was a hook'em horn. I didn't.
Until you said that, I didn't even notice it. Now I'm like, oh. Yeah, maybe.
So is this hook'em horns, or is this? Or is
I think this is hook'em horns. I think this is like hang loose.
Hang loose, and then this is rock and roll? No, this is rock and roll.
This is Ronnie James Dio.
That's Ronnie James. Okay, I just...
Oh, wow.
Look, how did you do it?
I don't know. I'm not sure what...
You know what?
Happened again?
That is pretty cool.
Look at that.
You invoked Ronnie James Dio, and he came from the grave. Oh my God,
that was pretty cool.
Can I?
Was awesome.
So I'm not using Zoom. I can't do that. We're running a little out of time. We wanted to talk about recommended tools, but
I could just real quick.
Can we just let's do that real quick, and and
Yeah.
we'll wrap it up for today.
So yeah, just to get like very quickly, just to give a little context, right? Of course, now the
You've
big
been
deal is
listening to the
AI.
B2B
And
Marketing
so there's a
Mindset.
lot of tools out there now that, like a lot of platforms, and I've tried most of them, where you can record, like let's say, we take the recording of this podcast and feed it into one of those platforms and it will automatically do the clips, like all of it. Choose the
Oh,
clips, produce them, and just spit them out, which sounds amazing. However, I have yet to find one that really gets the job done the way I want to get it done, like for our clients, right?
Right.
So I don't, in my opinion, and look, there might be platforms out there that I haven't tried and that are awesome at that. I'm not sure. So in my limited experience, I haven't really found one that gets the job done yet. And it's probably coming. They'll get better and better. But at least so far, I would say if you're trying to create like a really good clip or series of clips, you can try that. The app that I use is called Descript, Descript. And it has a lot of AI baked into it. And it was one of the first platforms where you can upload audio or video, it transcribes it, and then you can edit you edit by editing the transcript,
hmm.
Right.
which is huge for taking out filler words, right? It automates that basically. And so what used to take literally hours, painstakingly going through, now can take like 1 second, which is incredible. And it's gotten better and better and has more and more tools. So at least right now for me, in terms of producing both audio and video, it's a combination. There's a lot of good AI stuff like baked into Descript that can help, but ultimately to create a clip, again, one that's going to stand out and be like just exactly what you want it, you have to be involved. There's still a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that you kind of have to do by hand. Maybe that will change. Maybe eventually there'll be that AI that's so good that it can kind of channel you and, create exactly what you want. It's not there yet, in my opinion. But there are
But
tools that
there,
has AI capability that can help
right.
you be more efficient.
Well, and on this program, the tools we use: OBS Studio, Final Cut Pro. We use
Yeah.
Compressor.
Hmm.
We've got Stage Timer. So I'm looking at a timer is really big on my screen. It says 51 minutes. I know we're long. We use Stream Deck to control the stream. So there's really a lot going on. But you can do it a lot simpler. You mentioned a couple platforms. We use Zoom, for example. Like you guys are coming through on Zoom. Really not the best way. And you
Yeah.
mentioned a couple of platforms that separate the video and audio. Tell the listeners about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly. So one, kind of the leading one is called Riverside.fm, and another one is called Squadcast. There's one called Zencaster. I've used them all,
Zencaster, yeah.
and they all do more or less the same thing. But the reason that I would recommend them instead of Zoom, especially for recording something that you want to repurpose, or really recording something that you're for any reason, is it records locally on every participant's device. So even if you have internet problems or whatever, that's okay because you're just recording locally into your computer and then it uploads it. And also because of that, it's recording every participant on their own track, right? So if you think
Right.
of tracks like in terms of music, so that it's not all just baked into one single track. When that happens, then you end up getting a file with like the three of us. And if you wanted to create a clip that was like just Pete talking, well, it would be hard to do that. It would be very awkward to do that. But if everyone has their own track, both audio and video, then you can just work with the individual tracks. And that's just a lot better. The quality is a lot better at the end of the day. So I would recommend any platform that allows you to record people locally on separate tracks. That's what you want.
Yeah. I think that's awesome, and we certainly have our share of problems with Zoom. So, but I do hear the ending music. But thank you for coming on. Thanks for being patient with the technical issues that we did have today. And we will be sharing this video, and hopefully we will be able to cut it up a little bit and re-release it. And maybe we'll have you back, and it'll be smoother.
great.
Because this is a topic that we've just barely scratched the surface. And normally we do some final thoughts at the end, but we are running a little long. So, but thanks, man. I really appreciate it, and you've been helping me kind of figure out some things that, even though I've been doing this for a couple of decades, I learn something all the time, and I really appreciate that. So And this funk end music that you're hearing was an improvised tune that we played. So I own the music too, and I play the music on the program. So there's
Nice.
that. Copyright, something to think about. I mean, there's so many angles to this. You gotta think it through. But anyway, great stuff. Let's sign off, and if you guys could just hang on, we'll wrap it up off the air. We'll see you guys next Thursday, 11 o'clock Central, every Thursday, whether we like it or not. Can you give me the Dio thing one more time? Can you give me the Dio fingers? Make that effect.
Oh yeah,
Can we do it one more
let's
time?
See if I can do it. Of course, now it's not going to work, right?
You know, I'm telling you, it was.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, he got it. All right, we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the B2B Marketing Mindset with Pete Monfre and Bill Lowell. Add to the conversation by commenting, sharing, and liking. And don't forget to subscribe and check out the links in the comments. Learn more at b2bmarketingmindset.com.
I think the reason it does that is it's not Zoom. Oh, sorry.